Hello and welcome to Mega Trip, the real travel channel that inspires you to get out and adventure. And once again, if you've been watching, you join me in Rio de Janeiro in Brazil. If you have watched my earlier videos, you'll have seen that we've looked at the lesser trodden side of Rio. We've taken to the skies and had a top-down view of the city. If you haven't watched those, go and give them a little look. If you're enjoying the content, please make sure you subscribe to the channel. It's just a little button just down there. It really, really helps. But anyway, today we're flipping that completely on its head and we're doing a guided tour of the main sites here in the center of Rio. So here's what's coming up on this episode of Mega Trip. Time to get our walk on and see what else there is here in downtown Rio de Janeiro. It's getting hot. I'm not gonna lie, the service for getting this was an absolute pain in the arse, but it is delicious, and that is when everything changed. The money, the power, the taxation, all moved here. So that's my 3 wishes made. Am I going to tell you what they are? No. They're just for me. More exciting than that, check this place out. Across the road from these red doors is another old house, and that was inhabited by a very famous celebrity. One you might know, one you might recognise from Fruit. And that is so the politicians can hide from the people. Apparently. Let's see how long I wear that around central Rio before it all goes horribly wrong. But for now, let's party on. No! It's like a ball of gooey, sticky sweetness. Through the magic of editing, you now know more than I do about what is going to happen on today's adventure. I quite often turn up at cities not really knowing what I'm going to do, what's going on, what the lay of the land is, and one of the best tips I could give you is sign up to a free walking tour, and that's what we're going to do today. Jump on the old interwebs, jump on your phone, have a little look for free walking tours in that particular area. There's usually some kind of tip expected, but it is not compulsory, and it's usually well worth it. And it will give you a chance to explore with our local guide who'll show you the sights and sounds. And that is what we're going to do today here in downtown Rio de Janeiro. We're meeting at the famous karaoke clock in downtown Rio de Janeiro, so a bit different from the usual tourist hotspots of the beaches, Sugarloaf Mountain, Christ the Redeemer, etc. So today we're going to have a little explore, and you're going to join me on this particular adventure. But for now, cue the music. So what do we reckon? Marks out of 10 on the Rio de Janeiro street meet. What's the juice?
I'm gonna try it again. Yeah, maybe a 6.
So wholly positive review there on the Rio de Janeiro street meat sandwich before we get started on this walking tour. Lots of little stands and stalls for you to grab a snack, grab a juice, grab a water. Make sure you bring your water. Anyway, we're going to kick off. So one of the best reasons you want to do these walking tours is that you get an amazing local guide who knows the city so well. Already we've had so much information from Clara, our amazing guide. I'm going to start with this, because you may not see it again. Behind us, there's the monastery of St. Anthony. Now, St. Anthony is the saint that they pray to here in Rio if you want to find love, because St. Anthony was a married saint, apparently. What's interesting is the way they pray. They take the statue of St. Anthony and they put him upside down in water, in a glass of water, until they find love, almost like some kind of mafia punishment, holding him hostage. And if it takes a bit too long, then they put him in the fridge. Even longer, they put him in the freezer. So real interesting, different approach. Anyway, the monastery of St. Anthony is on the side of Karaoke Square where we started. Now, karaoke is the name for someone from Rio de Janeiro. Rio de Janeiro isn't actually the full name. I can't remember the full name, so I'll chuck it in the description. But karaoke actually means people from a white house, and it was a name for the colonials when they first came here. Apparently people in Rio don't realise that's the etymology of it. But anyway, super interesting. Right, we've walked on a bit more now, we can probably get a slightly better view of this monastery. It's a real mix of modern buildings and these old, very cool, colonial, religious buildings. Right. Time to get our walk on and see what else there is here in downtown Rio de Janeiro. It's getting hot. Okay, so the next stop on our journey is the Cafeteria Colombo. Very famous bakery, I guess, here in Rio de Janeiro. It doesn't open until 11 a.m. There was a massive queue of people waiting outside the front as we rocked up to it, which I'll probably show you. But you go in, it's very nice, very beautiful, very colonial looking, if I'm honest. Apparently there's marble from Italy, wood from Brazil, various other important things in the Cafeteria Colombo. But one of the reasons it is so famous is it's actually where the presidents of Brazil come, and they all have their own seat apparently. So if you're president of Brazil, you come along when you get elected and you get your own seat within the cafeteria, and they're all different. No one wants to sit where the other presidents have sat. Anyway, the few things you can have here, lots of sweets, but apparently, and I'm going to murder the pronunciation of this, one of the big ones to try is coxinha, which is this one right here. Little teardrop flavoured pastry. The main ones they have here are chicken, which is a very traditional one, or chicken and cheese. So it's the first one I've had. I've seen loads of these around the streets in Rio, but I'm going to give it a go. See what it's like. That is not what I thought it was going to be like, but it's very tasty. It's like a potato-like surround and some mildly spiced chicken inside. Not going to lie, the service for getting this was an absolute pain in the arse, but it is delicious. Right, I'm going to enjoy eating this before we head off onto our next destination. So a long, long time ago, Brazil, Rio, was just another colony. And then in 1807, everything changed. What changed was Napoleon. So Napoleon was threatening the Portuguese monarchy, the Portuguese royal family. He was taking over Europe. There were options for the Portuguese royal family to partner up with the French or the English, but instead they decided to move wholesale to South America, to Brazil, to the colony in Rio. And that is when everything changed. The money, the power, the taxation all moved here. And that meant they built the colonial element of the city, and that's where they go and check out right now. So the tradition in Brazil is whenever you go inside a new church, you can make 3 wishes. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to go into this church, which is where the merchants used to go before setting sail for good luck and for blessing. Say what you want about the Catholic Church, but they've got a real sense of gore and the macabre. So that's my 3 wishes made. Am I going to tell you what they are? No. They're just for me. One of them might be the downfall of organised religion, but hey, who knows? So as you walk through these older streets in downtown Rio de Janeiro, you'll see that a lot of the doors are quite tall. Now the reason for that, I've just been told, is they're from colonial times. You didn't have cars, what you had was horses, and it wasn't safe to leave your horse on the street, so you'd ride it through the doors. But more exciting than that, check this place out. Across the road from these red doors is another old house. And that was inhabited by a very famous celebrity. One you might know, one you might recognise from Fruit. So that was Carmen Miranda. That's where she grew up, where she was born, one of the biggest Hollywood stars of the time. And if you think about those little blue stickers on Chiquita bananas, the fruit on the head, the lady with the fruit on the head, that's Carmen Miranda. Anyway, let's keep mooching around downtown Rio de Janeiro. So at the end of 1807, start of 1808, when the Portuguese royal family arrived here in Rio de Janeiro. In fact, right here. You see the port there, the water used to come up a lot higher. But when they arrived, the women had lice from the journey and they'd shave their heads. And at that stage, the locals here in Rio thought, oh, that's a European fashion. And they shaved their heads too, not knowing that actually it was just lice. Anyway, when they arrived, there wasn't an infrastructure here for royals. So this was actually the royal palace. It was a lot simpler than you'd have seen other royal palaces in Europe. And that's what we're going to have a little look at now. So this was the very first royal palace for the Portuguese royal family when they arrived at the end of 1807, start of 1808. Okay, so I can't show you everything in there. You'll have to come here and have a little look for yourself, but I did find out some more good facts. So we talked about the Portuguese royal family arriving because of Napoleon in 1807. Well then, in 1814, Napoleon was pretty much done, and the Portuguese royal family went back, apart from John VI. Now, John VI stayed on until 1821, 1822, at which point the population actually got a bit worried he was going to leave, because they got a lot of benefits from the Portuguese royal family being here. And he then announced that Portugal would be independent of Brazil, but still have a monarchy. And that lasted all the way until 1888, when they abolished slavery, and that led to the abolishment of the monarchy. Anyway, come here, check out the Royal Palace, and right next to it you've got this stuff. These are still government buildings. Absolutely beautiful, but important to note, Rio isn't the capital of Brazil. That's actually Brasilia, which is out in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the jungle. And that is so the politicians can hide from the people. Apparently. Let's look around. The big thing that I'm realising as we kind of walk around downtown Rio, around Centro, around the historic centre, is when you think of Rio, that's not what you think about. You think about Christ the Redeemer, you think about the beaches, you think about Sugarloaf. And I was just chatting to Clara, our guide today, and she's right. She was saying it is a real shame. It makes it a little bit harder to access because the city here doesn't talk about that side of things, but massively recommend it. Get into the middle of Rio. Maybe go in the day, maybe it's a bit safer, I don't know, maybe you feel more comfortable. But check it out. I mean, look, we've seen historic buildings, we've seen beautiful cafes, we've seen government buildings, we've seen markets. To be honest, I think we've all pretty much been for the whole day so far in maybe a 200 or 300 metre square area. There is plenty to see and do. Get yourself on a free walking tour, get yourself down here, come at the start of your trip, get a sense of the place and the lay of the land. One thing that is certainly constant in Rio is a sense of fun. And I'm lucky enough to have just had a dancing clown come and adorn my hat. Look at this guy. Boom. Let's see how long I wear that around central Rio before it all goes horribly wrong. But for now, let's party on. No! It's gone. So we've headed through the city to an area that's been described to me as the Broadway of Rio. And here we have things like the Fine Art Museum, the National Library, where one of every single book that is published in Brazil needs to be, and the frankly beautiful municipal theatre. Now, when they were putting this area together, they very much wanted it to be the Paris of the Americas. And you'll see all over Brazil pigeons. And the reason those pigeons are here is because they thought, hey, there's pigeons in Paris, so we'll bring them to Brazil to make it like the Paris of the Americas. Anyway, one more fun fact while we've been walking around. Everywhere you see the ground, the floor is made up of these stones. And these are called, by the locals, Portuguese stones. And the reason why they're called that is when the boats came over in order to take the gold from Brazil back to Europe, they had to come with some ballast. And the ballast that they used were these Portuguese stones. And wow, that really gives you an idea of how much gold was stolen from the Americas and from Brazil. Because you see these Portuguese stones absolutely everywhere here in Rio. Our guide said, of course, karma's a bitch. They still have the stones, Portugal no longer has the gold. Olá, por favor. Brigadeiro. Obrigado. So let's have a little look at this. So this has been recommended again by Clara, our tour guide, as a very traditional Brazilian snack. This is Brigadeiros. I think they're all types of Brigadeiros, but apparently this is a traditional one with chocolate and condensed milk. So let's give it a go. It's like, what is that like? It's like a ball of gooey, sticky sweetness. I'll tell you what, it's maybe a little bit early for me, but after a long meal or something like that, or with a coffee, that'd be absolutely delightful. Very, very good, very sweet, and just free Brazilian rares. I think it's about 50p, something like that. I'll do the calculation and whack it up on the screen. But nommy. Hola. Caipirinha, por favor. Small. Obrigado. Thank you. Obrigado. So we're just finishing up the walking tour, coming to the Selaron steps that I'll show you in a minute. I just stopped to get myself the traditional drink of Brazil, particularly you'll find here in Rio de Janeiro, the Caipirinha. And I'll probably have to cut in the lady making this for me, but you'll get these on the streets absolutely everywhere, particularly in Lapa, where we are now, which is very much the nightlife district. So this cost me a grand total of 10 reais, so that's about £1.50. And you can see it's not really a big drinking culture here. There's a very light measure of cachaça going in there. Here you go. Let's just pause for a minute and watch how much went in. Yeah, and it keeps going. And it keeps going. So like I said, that's about £1.50 mixed up with some sugar, some lime juice, as they call it here, limon. And it really is absolutely everywhere. A nice, refreshing treat. Put hairs on your hairs. Right, let's finish up the walking tour at the Selaron steps. As you walk up to the Selaron steps, you are very much in Lapa, the buzzy, arty nightlife district, full of hubble, bubble, toil and trouble, and it's the middle of the day here. It hasn't even got into the night, but it brings you to the amazing, the special Selaron steps. Now these were created by a Chilean artist, famed for having a bohemian, tumultuous life, and all this was put together over many years. Actually, with a lot of the tiles being donated by people from different countries, as they started to become famous as this work in progress became a thing. So that is it for our walking tour, for our view, our little look around central downtown Rio de Janeiro. If you've enjoyed this, please make sure you give me a little like, subscribe to the channel. Lots of you aren't subscribed. It's the little icon just down there. Doesn't cost you anything, just make sure you get announcements every time new content drops. And hopefully you'll join me next time for more exciting adventures just like this here on Megatrip.